I'd like to call this meeting of the Common Council of the City of Elkhorn to order. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bruce Lechner is absent. Tim Sharota.
Here.
Gary Payson Jr.
Here.
Ron Dunwoody is absent. Scott McClory.
Here.
Ken Meinell.
Here.
Carol Young. Here.
We've got public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone? If you want to come up to the podium, I need to read a little statement, and then we'll have you state your name and address and let us know what your thoughts are.
There.
Yes, you can sign in. Thank you.
Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each. The public may speak on any item of city concern, whether or not that topic is included in the agenda. However, if the topic does not pertain to an item listed on the council agenda, the council is not permitted to address or discuss the matter during this meeting. Under open meeting laws, the council must notice an item on the agenda to allow discussion on that matter. If the council is not permitted to discuss your concerns, your comments will be considered and may be placed on a future agenda for further discussion. So if you want to state your name, please.
My name is Herbie Haskins. My wife, Judith. On May 16th, 2022, my wife and I appeared before this very council, and we asked for its complete and unwavering support for the city's legal counsel to address the situation that has plagued us for over 5 years. The two scofflaws at 5438 State Road 11 have been running an illegitimate repair business and junkyard literally in our backyard. After ducking and diving, the town of Delavan, the ETZ board, the city of Elkhorn, and even the Walworth County court system for over 5 years, they finally got their day in court. On December 28, 2022, the Honorable Judge Reddy held the defendant in contempt again and ordered that all the junk, the temporary tent buildings, be removed and to cease operation of the repair business. The defendant was also fined appropriately and has been ordered not to have any outside storage under threat of incarceration if his order is violated. My wife and I are elated at the outcome and the condition of the property. So tonight, we are here to say thank you and to express our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of the council members, the council president, the administration, and of course, City Attorney Mr. Phillips and his skilled and qualified staff. I especially would like to take this opportunity to recognize and to thank Attorney Mr. John Murphy and the city's zoning administrator, Allison Schwark, for their hard work documenting and their professional presence and demeanor at the hearing. I felt their conduct was excellent throughout the entire process. We are not well versed in these sort of matters, and admittedly, at times we felt as though this situation was not getting the attention it should have. But in hindsight, it is apparent that Mr. Phillips and his staff were patient, thorough, methodical in building the case and its resolution. The defendant has appealed the decision and still occupies the building, and equipment still comes and goes on a regular basis, which is allowed. And given the defendant's long and extensive history in these matters, it is doubtful that the last chapter of this story has yet to be written. Nevertheless, We are extremely grateful, extremely thankful for all the hard work the attorney's office and the city has done to uniformly enforce its ordinances and to address this situation. So again, my wife and I thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we've got the consent agenda. We've got the council meeting minutes from August 7th, 2023. Pay application number 6 for HydroClean LLC regarding the 2022 sewer rehabilitation project in the amount of $61,870. Pay application number 3 from Rock Road Companies for the 2023 East Centralia Street reconstruction project in the amount of $328,989.46. And lastly, accept written notice of the resignation of the municipal judge James Duquette, whose last day in office will be September 29th, 2023. Can we do these all together? Would anyone like to separate anything out of there? Okay. Can I get a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions on any of these items? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes. And now we've got a presentation from Dale Breckert with Foth to discuss, I guess, well number 6 inspection and proposed rehab.
You're all set, Dale.
Oh, all right. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna do a quick screen share here. Second, Matt, is that coming through on your end at all?
No.
Okay, 1 second, I think I got it. Think it should be working now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, thanks for having me on for a few minutes here. Just going over the information that was in your agenda packet regarding well 6 and the rehab that is ongoing there. So I'll quick run through a few slides, and then if there's any questions at the end, I can field them however we need. So jumping into it, just a quick agenda. I want understanding well rehabs in general. I'll quick touch on that, what that means, what that is. Well 6 status, then the recommendations reviewed, recommendation that we'd like to proceed with, and then what well rehab is next, you might be wondering. So understanding well rehabs, so there's 2 components with when you have to rehab a well, and it's typically 8 to 12 years in Wisconsin with our water quality here, and it's different throughout the state. It also, of course, depends on how much you run your well or how many hours are on that pump and motor. But 2 components of it, if you see in the image here, you've got the actual pump itself, which in your case, you have submersible pumps in it. So the motor and the pump is submerged hundreds of feet below the ground, as you see here. So you can have mechanical wear that happens at these over time. You've got a spinning machine that has wear, it passes sand, it just wears out over time. The bearings, the seals, everything about that mechanical device wears out. And then you also have natural buildup of minerals and films within the well formation. So the sands and gravels have natural buildup films that will occur over time. and every well is different, depends on the water quality and the pH and all kinds of factors. So that will build up on the screen down there and also in the formation sands and gravels itself. So it just needs to be cleaned and flushed ever so often to keep its production up. And I didn't mention this, but every well is unique. It has its own time frame. Every formation is different than another. So one well might need to be rehabbed every 8 years. Another well might be every 15 years. You just have to learn your well over time, and it's usually quite repeatable once you understand its time frame. So next, well 6. So what's going on well 6? So back about, well, a few years back now, 2019, this text is a little bit blurry on here, but about early 2019, it was noticed that there was a flow decline. So you see, normally well 6 produces about 800 gallons a minute. There was a decline that started back in 2019 and continued very, very steadily. The utility was watching this, hoping it would level out at some point, but it didn't. It just kept going down, 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 to a point where it was below half its normal capacity. So this is a sign that there is some kind of mechanical failure typically going on with the pump. So, oh, here's a picture of well 6, by the way. So well 6 was pulled. CTW, a well company, was hired to come in and pull the pump and investigate what is wrong, what's going on. There was a PO issued for $29,525. So they came in, they televised it, so they pulled it, what you see here. This is your motor at the bottom, 200 horsepower submersible motor, and I think there's 14 stages here. So it's a very large, high producing pump. They televised it, they cleaned it, they flushed, well, they will be flushing it and putting a new level transducer in. That was all part of sort of 1. But the main part of PO1 was to, identify what's going on, why do we have half the flow? And then they were going to issue a request for purchase order 2 once they figured out what all parts and pieces were needed. So at the time when we first were talking about this, we were estimating between $20,000 and $100,000 additional money, depending on what was found, to fix whatever combinations of repairs were needed. So after it was pulled, CW found issues with pretty much everything down there, and that's not a real surprise. We don't have a good date. We couldn't really dig up a date when this was last rehabbed, but it was probably close to 20 plus years ago when this was worked on last. So it had a really good run with the equipment that was down there. But as expected, knowing more that this hadn't been pulled in a very, very long time, the decline was indicating mechanical type issues with how consistent it was declining like that. So CTW came back and said basically the pump, the motor, check valves, power cable, and the column pipe all needed to be replaced. That was a recommendation, at least. So that totaled out to $88,191. So we worked with the city. Tim actually and I know well expert in the Midwest. He does work on the side to help troubleshoot and get involved in all kinds of different projects. So we decided to engage Gibson Enterprises. His name is Jeff Gibson. And they basically relooked at everything CTW found, double checked different options. Could we reuse anything? Could we repurpose anything? Could we rebuild anything? Just any way to save money and come up with a better solution to the 88,000. One of the big ideas that came up and was investigated was reusing the old cable. But we talked quite a bit about this along with the risks of doing that, and determined that the risks outweighed the savings in this case. If you put an old cable back down, it could fail in a matter of months or a matter of another year. And then you have to burden the cost of pulling the entire thing out and replacing it with a new cable at that time. So due to the age and all the other factors here, weighing the risks and the possible savings that were out there, it was determined that going with all new equipment, as CTW originally recommended, was the safest investment for the city. So there is now a recommendation to proceed with purchase order number 2 to CTW, the 88-191. Talking to Adam and people at the city, of course, it's understood that this is very poor timing for another expense like this. You just have to understand that these wells have their own timelines, and when they start to degrade, as this one did, it comes pretty quick. So it's hard to plan for these mechanical failures. But this particular well is very critical for the upcoming 2024 season. We've got the Lakeland Water Treatment Plant Expansion Project that will be starting up. And just through the phases of that project, well 7 and well 8, and actually the entire production of the Lakeland treatment plant will be offline during those improvements. So having well 6 as reliable as we can get it, with new equipment down there that we're banking on there not being any issues with it for several years, that's very critical at the moment to have this as a reliable water source. So those are all the factors we baked into this recommendation of not trying to take any risks that we didn't want to deal with the outcome of. So that's the spiel on well number 6 recommendation, where we're at. What well is next? So the good news is well 7 was just complete in 2023. So that's not slotted in your capital improvement maintenance plan until 2033. Again, we're just using a 10-year guesstimate until each well's history is understood, and you can fine tune that timing better. The other good news, well number 9 was new in 2017 with the construction of the Northeast Water Treatment Plant. So that's currently slotted for 2027. Again, a 10-year projection. But there is a well that is slotted for 2025. So it's just good to be aware of that. Well number 8. And we are monitoring that. We're plotting its production, and it's actually not showing any signs of much capacity reduction to date. So that may not actually be 2025. That might slide out. But you try to get these before you get that real aggressive decline like the well number 6 had. But that was just more information for the group of what's up next. So any questions at all? I can help field those for well 6 or even future well rehab plans.
Yeah, I do. Good afternoon. Question, from the time we cut the PO to the time it's done, what's the lead time?
Yeah, so I believe the equipment that was selected for replacement is relatively short lead time compared to some equipment in the industry. So I believe they're gonna try to have all the equipment on site within 4 to 6 weeks. And then as soon as all the equipment's on site, then they will proceed with the install.
How long is the install?
Probably a week to 2, just depending on the timing of the crew being able to get here.
Okay, and
So I would think 8 weeks from the time the PO cut would be a very safe.
okay, and then qualification? How long to
Sorry, I
qualify?
missed that.
How long to qualify after it's all done?
Like a warranty period? Is that what you're referencing? Or?
No, how long before we can turn it back on and start producing and get everybody bought in, et cetera?
Yeah. So once the new equipment's in, it goes through chemical treatment in order to kill any bacteria that's in there. Then it's flushed for a couple days, and then there's a safe bacteria test, which is done right away. As soon as that safe bacteria test comes through and clears with the DNR, it's back online right away. So I would say within a few days of that reinstall, you're typically right back online.
So best case is 9 weeks. Right?
Yeah, I would, on the optimistic side, I would say best case is probably 7 weeks from the PO. Worst case is probably closer to 9. The 9 would bake in a few delays with shipping or getting the equipment here.
Okay.
So I'd say 7 to 9 weeks would be good for fastest to some delays built in. We don't expect to see what happened on well 7 here at all. This is all in stock equipment. There's no rehabs, rebuilds. It's all brand new in stock being shipped directly to the site.
And when do we plan to do Lakeland besides 2024? Early, late?
Early, yeah.
Early, like January or?
Well, so the time frame on Lakeland and just for conversation, the Northeast Utility Expansion Project also, those are under application for DNR funds, loan applications right now. So they expect that the loan applications would be approved and then loan closure would be right around December or January here. And basically right around the time when you can close on that loan, you can bid that project and you can get construction underway right after the contracts are in place. So there's a few different timing items that have to play out, but generally, loan award, loan close, and bidding of the construction project all should happen, January, February of 24.
Okay.
And then contracts will be issued and then construction underway. Hopefully, Q1 of 24.
Okay, so here's my thought is we have the other wells operational. We know we're gonna get the loan in December, which will pay for 7 and all the other reconstruction, is that we wait and put the well 6 into the capital plan and 1st of January, kick them off, because then we're looking at 9 weeks or so. And by the time we get that done, we'll have everything else ready to go. And then we do the switcheroo, shut off 7, 8, do Lakeland, and have 6 on to fill the backlog, since we're possibly short on funds. It's just my thought.
Yeah, definitely an option to discuss if you'd want to, delay PO2, to a later date, closer to the Lakeland.
Well, I'm just looking at the fact of being able to pay for it. That's what I'm looking at.
That item is on the agenda for new business later, so.
Right,
we-
and that's why I'm
we
asking
get
all
to
these
that.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I from a engineering standpoint, I don't see any red flags with that. There's one concern that I'd want to vet out a little bit with how long you would want this to sit without moving water through the well. Wells want a pump. So I would want to check on that to see if there's a safe amount of time that this could remain offline and get a little bit of information back to Tim on that. Tim and Adam, I could follow up and just, say if we can go up to 6 months and we won't create another issue with water quality. That's my one concern. And I don't want to make it sound like it's a big concern. It's just something I'd like to look into and get back to you on if you were thinking about delaying it for several months.
How long would it take for you to do that research?
A day. It just me some phone calls on my end and getting some answers. So minimal effort. It just takes some time for people to get back to me.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to do that. That's a very, very minor thing. But I think it's a good rock to turn over with the conversation and have that documented that, we're definitely safe letting it sit for extended periods. That being said, well 7 sat for extended periods because of equipment delays. We didn't have any issues there with water quality because of it. So just something I'd like to check into here.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick? From a budgetary standpoint, does it make a difference if we wait until the first of the year or if we do it now?
I'm just curious.
I don't know if you want to talk about this now or during new business or not. I'm going to defer to council on that.
I think we can cover it all in new business. We're gonna go back to it, so. We're gonna do that. Any further questions for Dale? Hearing none. Thanks, Dale.
Do you guys?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, and I will get an email to Tim and Adam very shortly here on that topic.
Do you want him to stay online until we get to that item? Or are we gonna end that call now?
I don't think that's necessary. Do you? Do you? I mean,
There might be a question that comes up. That's all I'm saying. Unless you can get him back.
Dale, can you just hang on for a little bit? We'll
Yeah,
probably get to that item
absolutely.
rather shortly.
Yep, I'm working on other stuff, so.
We'll be
just-
back.
I'll listen for my cue. Yep.
okay, thank you. Next item is bills payable in the amount of $3,969,548.14.
I'll make a motion to approve the said amount.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kim Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Scott McClory.
Yes.
Under report of city officers, we've got the mayor's report. We've got the swearing in of the new deputy clerk, Rebecca Perez. And the city attorney, Mr. Phillips, is gonna take care of that.
Just give her a second for them to get in here.
Either one of those is fine, whichever you want to sit down or stand up, it's up to you.
Are they coming in? All right, they're there.
Oh, okay.
She has an audience, so.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Perez, if you'd repeat after me. I, Rebecca Perez,
I, Rebecca Perez,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Deputy City Clerk,
have been elected or appointed to the office of Deputy City Clerk,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear or affirm,
swear that
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
City administrator.
Again, I always have the tough follow-up, it's like, it's tough to follow a cute baby, so. Yeah, just real quickly, just a couple of very quick updates. One, we are currently accepting positions for a customer account clerk for utilities and a public works crewman position. Tronomy, or I should say Creekside Community, submitted their general development plan about a week ago, so we've been reviewing that and have a meeting actually tomorrow afternoon to talk to Creekside about that. And then we actually just got contacted late last week about somebody interested in doing potentially a data center in the area. And we've been getting quite a few of these inquiries recently, so it seems like that's kind of the big, a lot of people looking for location for data centers. So it's still very preliminary, but we do seem to be an ideal location for some of these larger projects. So those are my updates. I know Lacey's got a quick update to add, and then Matt after that. So.
I just wanted to let everyone know that the Wisconsin Elections Commission has changed the absentee envelopes for voting. These new absentee envelopes will be used next year. I put together a few slides just so you can see the different samples. This will be the big one. The first one was the outside envelope. The second one is the inner envelope used for most absentee voters. And then there are two others for people that are overseas or in the military, as well as in care facilities. I just wanted to get the information out there so people are aware. This is not a joke. It's real, and it's going to happen next year. I do like the updated envelopes, except for the fact that they do need to be printed in color because that means more money, and my budget is small. So, also thanks to the Wisconsin Elections Commission, we are going to be able to receive a grant to buy new envelopes, and the city is going to get $1,000.36 to spend towards envelopes. My one major concern is actually for the absentee envelope for military and overseas. All envelopes must be printed in color starting in January. I'm not quite sure how all military and overseas will be able to print their envelope and return it in color. So I will be asking the Elections Commission that question this week. That's it from me.
Thanks, Lacey. And Matt, you had something?
Yeah, just, it's hard to talk about, I guess, but for fall, it's upcoming, and I wanted to give an update regarding our leaf vac. We had hopes of getting it sooner. It's been to a couple different folks. Obviously, the chassis was built by Freightliner, and then it went to Fontaine for the fork lift portion of it, and right now it was just received by ODB, where they'll start to put on the leaf vac unit itself. So they expect to have it for 45 to 60 days, so we'll be right up close to that point to which we start to normally collecting leaves. So it should get here, but it's close.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. And we still are under contract with Waste Management if something were to happen, so.
Okay, we've got reports of city boards, fire advisory.
We met last month and just discussed the expense allocation for the 2024, and there was no questions, so the numbers that I computed, we're just waiting for the budget so I can get them numbers to them to review.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Library, Chad.
Thank you. Just a couple of updates. We begin construction on the new youth service desk the week of September 5th. You might remember this was paid for by the Gage Marine Grant and our Friends Group and the Library Foundation, so we're really excited to get that started. Public Works has graciously offered to help us take it apart next week, so you should be seeing that pretty soon. Also, we have the position of circulation supervisor posted. We're about to say goodbye to our longest serving staff member, Gail Grice, who's served for over 25 years. So please wish us luck in finding a replacement. Well, no one can replace her, but please wish us luck in finding the best candidate. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Rec advisory.
Yeah, Sunset Pool has been extended its summer swim season and will be open until Sunday, August 27th. And then the next Park and Rec Board is Wednesday, September 13th at 5:30 p.m. at City Hall.
Hey, thanks, Gary. Chamber of Commerce.
No report.
No report. Community grant writer.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give you a few quick updates. This time last week, I was speaking in front of the school board, giving my annual report and answering any questions that they had about projects. They were very interested in hearing about the participation that I've had with the city and different projects that I've worked on because, as you know, primarily I am funded by the school district. However, they are seeking for my participation more strongly with the city than with the school. So finding that bridge and that marriage in the first year has been a challenge, and I feel like I've done pretty well. I cleared another hurdle with Senator Baldwin's direct appropriation request for safe water assistance. So hopefully more to come there. And I've spent the last few weeks meeting with local business owners in the downtown commercial district, just getting the word out about local in-state funding opportunities for grants to improve their facilities. In a piece of that, Chief Christensen and I had a win this month. In one of those meetings, I was able to also say some of the other needs that the city has and was able to get some AED machines for the police department from Applied Material Solutions in the city. So, thanks.
Thanks, Katie. New business. We're back to discussion and possible decision regarding the proposal from CTW Wells and Pumps to rehab well 6 for a cost of $88,191.
Well, Matt had a question.
Matt.
I just asked how it would impact the budget if we were to execute the work now versus at the new term, the new year.
Well, I mean, the purchase order is for $88,000. So right now, based upon the cash flow analysis that Corey put together, I mean, it looks like we're losing about 70,000 in cash per month. So that pretty much buys us a little more than a month in terms of if we wait. So, and I, I double checked. I mean, in terms of when the new rates could kick in, it's pretty much, they said it's about 200 days from the time you file your rate application. And so obviously the city filed ours at the end of June, I'm sorry, end of July. So you're looking at January, February, probably, if we follow precedent. So,
So we're losing 70,000 a month because that well is shut down.
no, I'm saying, no.
That's what I heard. That's why I was like, what, wait?
No, I'm saying that because the rates have not been updated for the water department since 2017, the department has, operation and maintenance costs have gone up significantly the last few years, and therefore, that's the reason why, increased costs and stagnant revenues have created a challenge for the water department. So, really what's getting the department, through right now is primarily the ARPA money, which is kind of bridging the gap for the time being. But it's not, the well is not causing the $70,000 per month loss, and hopefully it doesn't, because that could be a real problem, but, so.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on well 6?
I do, actually. The one thing that Dale didn't touch on is the parameters that were set for the new Northeast treatment plant, and as far as how it operated to remove what we need, arsenic and everything else. It was generally put in place with the instructions for backwashing and things like that has to happen per every 1.2 million gallons of water that was pumped. Well, through all the testing that we have done and everything else, we have found that the true number is closer to 600,000. And then you have to backwash and do everything else, because if you go over 650, we started to see iron and arsenic passing through. Well, in doing that, with the limited sewer we have out there, that plant is shut down 2 to 3 days a week for catch-up on the sewer side. So with that being said, when that plant is shut down and the Centralia plant only being fed by well 4, which is also rapidly declining, it really taxes Lakeland and well 4 trying to keep up. So I know it's a money issue, but as far as, having the ability to have water like we really need to be in emergency situations, we really need to get 6 back online. Yeah, that's basically it. It's pretty important right now, just because of the downfall with the Northeast treatment plant, with the production that we can do and put out, the quality of water that we want. So, does anybody have any questions for Dale and I either?
So I actually do. So, well, the things you just said, why wasn't this put into the presentation with both? Understanding more critical that this is. That's what I just heard. This is very critical. So
It is, yeah, because if you have one more failure, we're in trouble.
So why wasn't this put in the presentation, and understanding of how important this is, so we could actually, rather than do what I just did, push this along much faster? Understanding the criticality of getting this well back in operation.
I'm not sure. We had talked about it.
Well, and if it didn't come through with Dale's presentation, then that's, I don't think that was the intent. I mean, that's the reason we're before you tonight, is because it is a critical need.
Nothing in my package says anything about this criticality that I read. That's what concerns me. It should have come in with your concerns. It should have been in here saying, guys, we got a problem, and we need to be figuring all ways to get this thing back in operation. That's all I'm saying. So at this point, I'll make a motion to approve it. You're gonna have to figure out how to pay for it. But at the end of the day, this type of detail needs to be brought in up front so we know it, versus doing what we're doing right now, in my opinion.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dale, did you want to say something or not?
Yeah, am I back on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I will validate everything that Tim said, and, you know, this battle with the Northeast plan, get rid of the waste, you know, that's developing more and more, and we're understanding that more and more every month. And Tim just had there was a month where we were reminded how critical that is. So there is a lot of conversation around that, and it is a big deal, like Tim said. While you guys were talking, I made a phone call to CTW. There's a good relationship there between Fulton and CTW for a lot of projects over the years. There are a couple talking points to help support what the city's trying to do here. They did mention that they would highly recommend and prefer to do the work sooner than later. 2 reasons. One, the stagnant water in the well usually results in much higher bacteria count, and then they have to chlorinate much more to get the safe back T back up. That was one thing. The other thing is, if this pushes into winter months, their work gets a lot more difficult with pipes freezing, flushing, of course, all the obvious stuff with water during the winter. What they did say, and he said, if the financially the timing is really, really bad, they would be willing to do the work now, and he was on the spot, but he said he'd be willing to do a 25% payment now, and then not require the rest. 75% could be billed in February of 2024, if that would help the city situation. They can delay that invoicing till February. So something to consider. I thought it was a pretty good proposal by Hunter there over at CTW.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Are we gonna come up with a plan to pay for this in the future here? If we cut a purchase order tonight, get that moving?
Just 25% of it.
Well, I think that's part of the question in terms of whether you want to take it out of the water fund now, understanding that, you know, we're basically trying to bridge what we have in order to cover our debt payments, and understanding the rates aren't going to go into effect until January, February of next year, or whether you want to, you know, pay for it out of a different fund, i.e. the general fund. That's an option. So that's kind of the guidance we're, you know, looking for from you.
I would defer to you and Corey about where which pocket you go to. It would be great. It'd be great if we can do 25% of it in 2023 and the other 75% after the first of the year. That'd be wonderful. But to your point, it has to get done now. It can't wait. So.
Well, I think the motion is to go ahead with the project. We didn't really discuss financing. Can we leave it that way?
You can't go ahead with the project without paying for it. So your motion, embedded in the motion, is to pay for it.
Correct.
And then you can, I don't think you have to spell out the detail at this moment, but what I'm hearing council say generally is, why would you not take that offer if it's
Correct.
available to you?
Correct.
And you can amend the motion and add that detail if you want, but I don't think it's required for the existing motion that's on the floor.
I wouldn't know what to keep going.
Any further discussion? Is this a roll call vote?
Oh, yeah.
A roll call vote, please.
Barry Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes.
Thanks, Dale.
Okay. We've got a discussion and possible decision regarding CVMIC Public Entity Liability Renewal Package for 25 and 26.
And this was just, you know, Civic wants us to commit a couple years in advance to continue to use them for our insurance, liability insurance. So I just wanted to make sure that the council was agreeable to continue to use them, or whether you want us to pursue some other option. But I can't say we've had any issues with them. I think Lacey enjoys working with them. So
The rate increase seemed not exorbitant, anyway.
yeah,
Just
a couple percentage
smaller,
points.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So do you need a action from council to renew for 2025 and 2026? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second, and I just have a question. In light of the financial situation we're in, do they need this payment before the end of 2023? Or just a commitment?
They just need the commitment.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Is this a roll call? Roll call, please.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
We've got discussion and possible decision regarding special event permit application from Ski Extreme Productions LLC to use Babeman Park for filming promotional water ski video on September 7th, 2024, I understand. Do we need to handle this now, or can this be brought back up again later? Or do they need a commitment from the city?
They said they would prefer a commitment sooner rather than later, because they're trying to obviously schedule this, far in advance, but it doesn't have to be done tonight if you want to push this to the next meeting or a future meeting, so.
Well, can our motion be to change the date to 2023? Since it seems to be a typo?
You mean to 2024?
The typo is the 2024, right?
The actual date is 2024.
Yeah, it's not next
So
month.
they need it for next year?
Yeah,
Okay. So what's wrong is this one?
that is on 2023.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw the email too, been going back and forth. Okay. So can we do that?
Move it forward to the next
Or
meeting?
just say in our motion to approve it
Can
2024?
I make a comment? I don't know that we're quite ready to, I don't know we've done a formal review internally of it, have we, with the fireworks and everything?
Well, this is just for the boating park use, that they still have to apply separately for the fireworks, right, Lacey?
Well, the special event committee has not reviewed the application, and once there was a discussion by city staff this morning, we realized there was a lot more pieces to the puzzle, and one of them was finding out that, no, we didn't need to rush because it's an event for next year. So I think the staff would like to review this more in depth and come back to council.
Okay. Then postpone it.
Sorry, Adam, is this the one you sent me a memo on too, about requesting whether or not the city could go beyond?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so they're, if I understand this correctly, and stop me if I get anything wrong, Adam, they're asking for the event to proceed on the lake beyond the time that we would now by ordinance be allowed to be there. So I did some looking into it on Adam's request, and I can't find any, other than normal variance process in zoning situations, I can't find a way for you guys to vary from your own ordinances unless you were to change the ordinance. It's kind of like you're playing a game of cards and you're going to change the rules for one hand. You can't do it.
I think they came back, I could be wrong, I don't want to speak for Carl, but he called me on Saturday, and I believe that they came back and said that they were willing to shut down before, they were willing to close at 9, which is what the park time was.
But that's not what the current request is, right?
Well, then they called me first thing this morning and said, hey, is there any chance we can extend it past 9? I'm like, we just had this conversation, but yeah, so, anyway, but I communicated that board's message to them, they understood, and they didn't want to pay to try to get the city code changed, so I think they're gonna probably stick with 9.
Can we just postpone this and get it all squared away and then back on the agenda in the future?
So
The
you need a
motion would be
motion
to
to
advance the request to a date certain, so whatever date you guys choose.
So we can make a motion to postpone to, what date would you like, Lacey?
First meeting of October?
All right, my motion is postponed to the first meeting in October of
Perfect.
2023.
Thanks.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We've got a discussion and possible decision regarding the appointment of an interim municipal judge due to the resignation of municipal judge James Duquette.
Oh, okay, you're just looking right at me, right? Okay, so Adam asked me to look into a couple of different questions. One of which would be, could you just abolish the municipal court, and what would be involved there? And then what if you don't choose to go that route? How do you get this process accomplished? And I'm not going to bore you with all the statutory numbers, but the rules are these: that once you know that there's a permanent vacancy, which you are now aware of, then you have, by council authority, the ability to appoint an interim municipal judge. That judge would fill out the current judge that's being vacated. They would fill out that for the period of time until the end of that term, and then you'd have to have a special election. So that's the rules of how that works. If you don't act quickly to do that, then the chief judge of the district, I should say, will do it for you, and then they'll put somebody in, and then you would lose your sort of influence over who you got as your municipal judge in the interim period. As I understand it, the election just occurred in '22, so it's a 4-year term by statute. So that's the time period that you've got.
It was in April.
Mhm.
What's that?
This year.
Wasn't it 2020?
It was 2023.
It was just this past year.
Oh, it's 2023, sorry, so 4-year term.
Yeah.
Is this similar to an aldermanic vacancy where you take letters of interest in the position and then we would select one? Would that?
You could certainly follow I don't think there's a process or procedure laid out in the statute. You could certainly make inquiry by something as simple as calling around to local attorneys that have interest. And I mean, it doesn't have to be an attorney. Let's be clear about that. But we've had experiences with non-attorney municipal court judges, and I prefer them to be attorneys. Not that my opinion matters in that regard. It's not a legal opinion.
Would we advertise the position looking for people interested?
Again, you could do that. You're not required to do that by statute.
I guess one option would be, because we would have to have a special election next spring for the position, you're talking about a relatively short duration of time. And so, maybe if you ask the chief judge to appoint somebody for the first, up to 90 days, after the end of the 90 days, if you're satisfied with that person, you could ask them to continue on, I assume, until the special election.
The chief judge's ability to appoint is only until 90 days. At that point, it expires unless there's extraordinary circumstances. Statute doesn't tell me what those are, but I would think at that point you would have a pretty good feel whether or not you liked the person that was there or not.
But presumably then you could use that person. That person could then, by the council's vote, could be appointed to fill the remainder until the actual spring election.
That does take it out of your hands and put it into someone else. Yeah, Joel?
I guess, do you know, is that true, I guess? Because my understanding of this, or interpretation, was the chief judge of the second district can appoint for a period up to 90 days?
Correct.
But then, does it not have to be someone that is able to hold office after that period of time? So if the chief judge, let's say, appoints someone from outside of the city, that person could only preside for those 90 days. After those 90 days, does it not have to be an elector?
I didn't have the impression that the chief judge could appoint someone outside the city, that they still had to follow the rules.
My understanding was that they could, for instance, in the absence of a municipal court judge in Delavan, the second, I thought the chief judge could appoint our municipal judge to go over to Delavan for a period of time not to exceed 90 days. That was my understanding, but
Okay.
I could be
And
wrong.
I didn't research that issue, and that does give a little bit more flexibility. So, I mean, that you may be right. I assume that you've
I don't know. It's not a legal opinion, Warren.
Oh, sure, when the chips are down, it's all Jello and pudding on me. So, yeah, we can look into that, but either way, I think for this meeting, your choices are, you're going to appoint somebody and you're going to put a process in place to do so. You're going to let as Adam suggested, let the judge do that, the circuit judge. Or you're going to, I can give you thoughts on abolishing and how that process would work. So those are the three things that are, I think, on the table.
But I think the chief's point was that, and I think rightly points out, makes a good point, that yes, the council could appoint somebody for up to 90 days. I should say the chief judge could appoint somebody up to 90 days, but if that person's not actually from the city, they wouldn't be eligible to then continue on after the 90-day period. So you could potentially be in a situation where if the court doesn't, under the extenuating circumstances, allow that person to continue on, yes, you would be searching for somebody new in 90 days. So, and that would be a very
Absolutely.
short period of time from between then and the special election.
Correct.
So would it make sense, because the 29th of September is his last day, is let you do some more research on the other items, including what Joel has identified, and then come back to first meeting in September with these details and maybe have a better way to make an informed decision on which way we should go? Or is it that critical we make a decision tonight?
Well, I think he gave us a pretty short window, didn't he? He's out in like 2 weeks or something?
The 29th.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's pretty critical because you're going to have municipal court coming up and you've got appeals to circuit court, you've got matters that are pending in process all the time. And if you don't have court open at that time period, all those things get continued for starters. And it pretty quickly the wheels come off in a municipal court because it's a process and you're basically throwing the brakes on in the middle of that process. So I would recommend as city attorney that you act on this either to follow the choice of having the judge appoint one for the 90 days or to move quickly with your process to pick one yourself. One of those two options would be my recommendation.
Well, then the quickest thing is to have the judge do it, because by the time we put a process together, you're still going to be weeks.
Yep. And I'm guessing that what both Joel and Adam have intimated will probably happen, because it's just too easy for a judge not to pick an existing municipal court judge. It's an easy way for that to happen.
Is there a way to encourage the judge to choose someone that would qualify after the 90 days?
I can encourage all I want.
But I guess I hate to be day 91, be right back to where we're sitting here right now.
But we need a bridge piece to get us to day 91. I mean, we got to take one bite of the apple at a time. And the first bite is we got to have someone from District 2 go ahead and appoint somebody short term.
Okay.
And in the background, we can be looking at other options. We're not going to have that pressure crunch of, oh my gosh, we got to do something here in the next 35 days.
So is that the consensus of the council to have the
I
judge
don't see
pick
we
a
have-
person,
I don't see we have another choice.
appoint a person, rather
Yeah.
than go through it ourselves?
I think for the short term, yes. Long term, I'm not so certain that we want those decisions to be made by an outside entity.
They can't be, as we pointed
Right.
out. Yeah, after the 90 days, it gets pretty dicey. We've got to have someone in place
Right.
or we're going to be in violation of the statute.
Right.
Okay, so I'm good with that. Everyone else is?
So that's my motion, is to have the second district
I think so, yes.
chief judge appoint,
Not a question that comes up very often, which district I'm in.
appoint for the 90 days.
And I'll second.
We got a motion, a second. Any discussion?
I would still recommend that staff be directed to look at the other options. Like if we kind of to Ward's point, if we already know in 90 days this person evaporates, or they decide, hey, I'd like to be the full-time person, who knows? But if we don't have a process already in place during those 90 days, we're going to get stuck. So let's not wait. So if we want to put out a thing, I'm sure it'll be a top thing in the paper. I'm sure it will be. I mean, that's a big deal. Put something out that says, send your letter of interest along with your dossier, your resume, your whatever, to whomever, and let's get the ball rolling. And then we'll look to make a formal appointment to serve out the remainder of basically the 3.5-year term. Because April was just a couple months ago.
So your headline above the fold would be that you are looking for attorneys that live in the city of Elkhorn who are interested in this position, or anyone that lives in the city of Elkhorn?
I think attorneys.
Okay.
I know there's other municipalities, to your point, and we all know them. But I would think our first checkbox should be that they have their bar exam passed and that they have a law license, I think.
But being it's not an election, we can have that right.
Right.
My only question for Ward is, there still has to be a special election though in the spring, right?
Yep.
So whoever the council appoints would be for a very brief period of time.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we don't get any takers, then we may have to consider opening it up to anybody to get us to the spring election. But again, we'll take a small bite of the apple at a time and see where it goes.
So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then we need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I'll make that motion. Second, whatever.
Got a
He's
motion?
first, I'm second. Go.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Don't you have to tell them we're going to reconvene in open session, Ward?
Yes. Does it say that here somewhere? We will reconvene into open session for possible action on closed session items.
We have reconvened at 7:01 PM.
So stoplight, 2 main waters, and 2 main entrance exits.
My satellite says 7:01.
Are these folks coming back in?
Yes, I would think so.
That's gonna help you?
I mean, coming from you guys, it hopefully should.
Okay.
Especially like if you guys think they're deal breakers, then
Yeah.
we need to know, so.
Yeah, no, the place burned down with people in it.
All right. We're looking for a motion. Scott, were you comfortable making that or?
That's fine.
Do you want?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to direct city staff to revise an agreement with the proposed developers. 3 specific stipulations the council is requiring is no less than 2 points of ingress egress to the property, and the stoplights being installed, and the two sources of water to fight fire should one break out in the apartment complex that satisfies our water department admin as well as the fire chief. And in the eyes of this council, those 3 are non-negotiable items. Those 3 things have to happen in order for this development to go forward.
And I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?